Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
When we say Going In Raw is the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to, it's not just because we keep you up to date on the latest wrestling news. It's not just because we have full, detailed, and critical reviews of every WWE and AEW show with coverage of New Japan and, of course, AAA. It's because, wait, what? Why is this the only pro wrestling show they need to be listening to?
Because we've been friends for over 20 years, wrestling fans for nearly as long, and work partners for more than a decade, and we literally couldn't do anything else. So we kind of need to be the only pro wrestling podcast people need to be listening to. Our livelihoods depend on it.
Desperation's a good enough reason for me, Larson.
Yeah.
So subscribe to Going In Raw,
A pro wrestling podcast.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, a part of the Dead End Podcast Network. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcasting services. Please make sure you check out Dead End Hip Hop, Dead End Sports, Dead End Gaming, Is the Mic Still On, Chris Platt's Strictly Hip Hop and Hoops Talk, and a host of other shows on our podcast network. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday for Sunday, February 16th, 2020. I am your host, Manny Brown. What's up, everybody? Hopefully you guys had a happy, safe, blessed week. My guest this week is a friend of the show. It's been on before, I believe sometime last year, over the summer, I believe. Glad to have him back, a man of many hats, host of the Dime NBA podcast, producer for some of their podcasts over at The Uninterrupted. I'm sure I'm selling him short on so many titles that he has, but I'm sure he'll correct us. Mr. Josh Rodriguez, welcome back to Any Given Sunday. What's going on, man? How are you?
Not much, man. No, that's perfect. You nailed it.
I never want to sell you short, my man. Never want to sell you short, man. How are you, man? Welcome back to the show. It's been a minute, but I'm glad to have you back.
I'm doing good, man. You know, living out in Los Angeles and moved downtown, which I'm pretty happy about. I'm about a mile from the Staples Center, and Clipper tickets are like $5. So if you're an NBA fan, that's pretty much what you can, what you dream about is one of the best teams in the NBA down the street. You can watch them anytime you want.
Yeah. No, that's a good deal. How is LA treating you? I know that's a little bit of a change. You're a lifelong East Coast person like myself. So how is being on the West Coast?
It's weird, man. I still haven't gotten used to it. I'm definitely an East Coaster for life. I would like to make my way back to New York at some point in my life. Right now, my career has landed me in Los Angeles, so I'm here for the foreseeable future. But, if the right opportunity comes along, I would love to move back to New York.
Hey, man, I think you'll get used to it, man. I was like you, man. I was a lifelong East Coast person. Now it's different. I'm not in LA. I'm in Seattle, but me, lifelong East Coast guy, and then moved out to the West Coast. It took me a while. It took me a few years to get acclimated, but I like the West Coast, man. It's not as bad. It's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah, it's okay. It took me a while, but I'm starting to like it. I'm starting to appreciate everything that's out here. So, it's not bad by any means. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm unhappy out here. I am happy. I do like it out here. It's just, miss the East Coast.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Well, I'm sure we won't cry you a river, at the weather that you're getting currently. So, so there are some advantages you're enjoying right now. So don't feel too bad for my man Josh here.
Yeah. Yeah, don't feel bad at all.
So yeah, man, I wanted to have you back on. Perfect time to have you back on with the NBA taking a little bit of a break, obviously with the All-Star festivities going on right now in Chicago. We were actually talking offline. I'm surprised you weren't a part of All-Star Weekend this year. Hopefully we get to hear you out in Radio Row out there in the years coming, right?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I fully expect this to be the last All-Star game that I missed, the last All-Star weekend that I missed. I was supposed to go. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances in the company, I was, I wouldn't say cut, but I wasn't, I did not go to All-Star weekend. Let's just leave it at that. But I do feel like, this is the last one for a pretty long time that I won't be at. And, it's just a goal of mine. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to go to All-Star Weekend, and being really close to the goal and not going is frustrating, but at the same time, having the opportunity to even be that close in its own way is an accomplishment. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm sure you'll have many opportunities, like I said. So yeah, well, I know you feel bad about not being there, but we're glad to have you on the show. So we probably wouldn't be able to have you on tonight if you were at All-Star Weekend. So yeah, selfishly, I'm not feeling bad for you.
We could have recorded tomorrow or something like that. Don't worry about it, man.
Yeah. Well, you're right. All right, man. Well, getting into it a little bit. Obviously, you're now in LA. Obviously, we know the tragedy that happened now almost a month ago. It's crazy how time flies. Almost a month now since the tragic passing of Kobe Bryant. I don't know if you had a chance to talk about it on your podcast. I'm sure, and all the other podcasts that you contribute on. But just talk a little bit about some of the memories you have of Kobe Bryant. Obviously, watching him as a fan growing up, and just working around the NBA, covering him. Probably, I don't think you got the chance to really cover him, but just talk about your memories as a fan of basketball, just watching Kobe and getting a chance to work in media and just being a fan of Kobe Bryant. Just what you'll remember the most about him.
Interesting, because I'll admit, like, I'm a LeBron fan. So a lot of LeBron fans, we have this thing where we're in arguments and debates, and a lot of our debates are against Kobe fans. And it's not that I have anything against Kobe. Kobe fans, like, just my whole life have just been like, not my enemy, but sports debate is fun, and you always have to have an opponent when it comes to sports debate. And Kobe fans are usually my number one target. But I've always respected the guy. I always respected his work ethic. I always respected his game. I have a Kobe jersey. So anyone who claims I'm a Kobe hater, not true. Kobe jersey number 8, baby. My earliest memory of Kobe, and I don't know why I'll never forget this. There's this highlight of him, and I don't know what year it was, but it's definitely early in his career, where he's dribbling past half court. It's a buzzer beater, and he stops on a dime, goes behind the back, and shoots it from half court with his regular form, and he nailed it. And I remember going to my local elementary school. I forgot how old I was, and I just did that for about an hour or two. And I think that's everybody, no matter if you liked Kobe, if you didn't like Kobe, if you're a Laker fan, if you were a Laker fan, you try to emulate him in some sort of way or fashion because you knew how good he was. You try to take something away from his game because you knew how good he was. It doesn't matter if you liked his game or not. He was just one of the best to ever play the game. Definitely one of the most hardworking players to ever play the game. The whole Mamba mentality is something that has been adopted by many of the players in the NBA today. And, my memories of Kobe now, when I think about him, I think about as an ambassador for the game, and more importantly, an ambassador for the women's game as well. I think he was doing a lot of good work with the WNBA and with, his Mamba Academy. And, the WNBA, let's face it, they're struggling right now, and they could use an ally or two. And I think he was the perfect ally for them to grow. So I'm sad for a lot of different reasons. I'm sad because, daughters lost their father, wife lost their husband and a sister. And I'm also sad because the NBA community lost, a legend, and a lot of legends lost a best friend, but also the WNBA community lost an ally, which they needed so desperately right now. And, it's weird. It doesn't even seem real. It's been almost a month now, and it still feels like it's not real at all. It's definitely one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had when it comes to death.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. It definitely, it just felt like a gut punch. It just felt like somebody was just playing a bad prank on you. It's just the way it happened. Obviously with his daughter and then the other individuals, God bless their soul as well. I mean, it's just a terrible story. I mean, it's just so sad. Just on the human level, it's just horrible. It doesn't even feel real. I'm with you on that. And that's also coming off the heels of David Stern, passing, right around the first of the year. Let's not shortchange David Stern too, because obviously sometimes as fans of basketball, we get to, or fans of any sport, we pick on our commissioners for whatever reasons, whatever things they do piss us off. And look, I've been critical of David Stern for a lot of reasons throughout the years, but I mean, you can't sell that man short. I mean, we probably wouldn't be even sitting here talking about the NBA right now as we are if it wasn't for David Stern. Just talk about him and his impact and the legacy that he leaves behind.
Well, David Stern is definitely one of the more progressive commissioners we've ever had in any sport, if you think about it. And, I like the tone that he set, and the players coming into the league without any type of xenophobia or anything like that, with open arms. And a lot of it has to do with David Stern, expanding the game across the ocean, across the Atlantic. And, David Stern, a lot of my memories are him being petrified in the stands after the Knicks brawl with either the Bulls or the Heat. His face. But, I mean, overall, man, he's done a great job with the league, like you said. And I think a lot of it has to do with, expanding the league outside the United States of America. When we think about the dream team in '92, they were so much better than everybody else. And if you look at the world now, they caught up, and a lot of that is because of the NBA's influence and players out there wanting to be in the NBA, getting training, being out there. So it's definitely in large part to David Stern, and he deserves a lot of credit.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think he's top 3-4 commissioners in the history of sports. I mean, he's definitely in the conversation with Rozelle. And I mean, just think about it. I mean, without David Stern, the NBA would have died. I mean, think about that. I mean, it's not hyperbole. I mean, he really, along with Bird and Magic and MJ and David Stern, those are probably the 4 figures most important to the growth of basketball in this country and across the world right now. I mean, it's amazing what he did. The vision to market the game the way that he did. He understood that the NBA was about superstars. It was about the personalities.
Right.
And he banked on that. He sold that as a commodity, as a product. And man, it's crazy that the NBA has lost two icons of the game in such a short period like that. It's very sad. Very sad.
Does not feel right at all. It's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, no, it's very weird, man. Very, very weird. So let's move on. I don't want to make this too sad of a show. I know I talked about Kobe. I'm sure you did on your shows as well. So, let's get off that, because it's just too sad to even try to talk about. But obviously we're recording on All-Star Sunday, All-Star game tonight, or about to start here shortly. What are your favorite memories about All-Star games past? Like, what if you had to pick 1 or 2 moments that, kind of stick in your brain, as far as just kind of those monumental kind of moments that you'll remember, you'll look back on fondly about the All-Star game? Well,
for the All-Star weekend, definitely Vince Carter. And what he did in the slam dunk contest that one year. I've always liked the slam dunk contest. I always looked forward to it as a kid. But when Vince Carter did what he did, the slam dunk contest has become like, I don't care about the All-Star game. I only really care about the slam dunk contest, because what he did was absolutely amazing. I remember seeing like J.R. Ryder go through the legs, and even Kobe, killing it. But the slam dunk contest, to me, it wasn't as spectacular. It wasn't the show it was until Vince Carter made it that show. So as far as that is concerned, I remember that specifically. But also, there was a game, I think it was in DC in 2001, where Marbury and Kobe were going at it at the end. That game was absolutely phenomenal. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, just YouTube it. I think it was 2001, Washington, D.C.
No, you're right.
West.
It was. Yep.
Yeah, the best All-Star game of all time. And it hurts me because I watch All-Star games now, and I'm like, damn, I wish we could go back to something what we had that year. I don't remember the whole game specifically, but I do remember the fourth quarter. I remember Iverson having a good fourth quarter. I remember Kobe hitting like 3 shots in the final minute, Marbury hitting 2 threes, and Vince Carter getting a block over Duncan to end the game. And you see the players on the East like celebrate like they won the championship, like it meant something to them. And I feel like we're missing that. Tonight's going to be fun. Tonight's going to be a show. There's probably going to be some highlight dunks, and it's going to be a lot of laughs. But in all, like it's not must-watch TV, in my opinion. I'm going to watch it because I love NBA basketball, but I can't really tell anybody who's not a fan of basketball to watch it, because it's going to be like crap to them. It's just going to be a bunch of, street ball and no one playing defense, and it's going to be boring. I'm glad you brought that game up, because that's one of the games that sticks out on a lot of NBA fans as a classic All-Star game. That game was phenomenal. I remember vividly that game and watching it. You're right, man. I think the All-Star game has lost a lot of its luster. I think a lot of people kind of get on me when I say that. It's not appointment television for me anymore. It's just like, it's, if I'm home on a Sunday night in the winter, I'll watch it. I'll definitely put it on. I'm watching the different sneakers and the highlights and the dunks and stuff like that. And, obviously, who's the celebrities in the building, but outside of that, like, I'll have it on in the background. I'll keep an eye on it, but it's not appointment television. It's not something that I'm going to blow off life to go see. Like, it's just not there for me anymore. I don't know if that's just age or, I don't know what it is. It's the game itself.
No, you're right. It is the game itself. Yeah, absolutely. It is the game itself. And it's, why do you think that is? Like, you talked about that 2001 game and the players kind of feeling like that was a big game for them. You could just tell by the reaction and how those guys, just were reacting at the end of the game. It just felt like a big game. And then why do you think the game has lost such importance and luster?
Well, I think the All-Star game specifically, you look at AAU culture, all these people, all these players, they grow up playing with each other. I mean, John Morant and Zion Williamson are next in line, and they were on the same AAU team. You know what I mean? So, like, they're friends. Yeah. It's all a good time. And, I don't blame LeBron for this sort of say, but he's made friends with everybody in the league, and he's so friendly with everybody in the league that, that competitive desire to go out and, like, destroy your opponent isn't there when it comes to the All-Star game. It's an AAU thing where I'm going to have fun with my friends, which is cool, but it's not as entertaining as to a fan to watch. I want to see LeBron and Giannis go at each other with, with the best players in the world at their disposal. What we're going to see tonight is not going to be real basketball. It's going to be for show, and there's going to be some cool highlights. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be boring to watch. And I think a lot of it is AAU culture. I think you could really point a direct line to these players growing up with each other and being friends.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And also I think it's just kind of technology and the internet and being able to see all these players. I mean, I know we both kind of, we're around the same age and we both grew up in the 90s. I mean, even in the 90s, you didn't get to watch every single player every game. You didn't get to watch, if you're on the East Coast, like I didn't watch Clyde Drexler every game, or I didn't watch, Mitch Richmond or guys like that. Like I obviously you caught highlights of them on SportsCenter and stuff like that. But as far as just being able to have highlights and games at your disposal, it's a different time now. Where now it's like for a kid growing up now, like, if you're a kid in New York growing up now and you see Kawhi on the East Coast, on the West Coast, it's like, oh, okay, that's great. I see him every day, or I see him every Wednesday night on a back-to-back or a doubleheader. Like it's not that, that exclusivity of watching guys that you don't get to see as often as you did back in the day when you were only getting maybe one game a week, or, the viewing audience was segmented East Coast, West Coast. It's a little bit different. So I do think that plays a role in it too, but yeah, I'm with you, man. It just doesn't feel the same. It's just lost its luster. It doesn't, hopefully tonight, because of, they're honoring Kobe and David Stern, the game feels a little bit more important. I hope the guys, and look, I'm not saying that the guys should go out there and basically try to kill each other and, somebody should issue a flagrant foul in the first quarter. Like we're not saying that, but although that would be fun to watch. No, we're not saying that, but definitely like a little bit more intensity and a little bit more kind of
try to win the game.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I just try to win the game. Just, get the competitive juices flowing, like actually care about winning the game and actually playing hard throughout. You know what I mean? Playing through, not just in the final 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, like, throughout, at least give an honest effort, for the full, 2-3 hours that you're going to be out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even if you want to take the first half to kind of lollygag around and use the third and fourth to kind of play, I wouldn't mind that either. I think most of the All-Star games were like that with us growing up. Right. I mean, I can remember in the early 2000s, they were like that, where it was like the first half was kind of meant for, having a good time. But then when the third and fourth quarter came around, things started getting serious, and you at least got a fourth quarter. Now, nothing was like the fourth quarter in Washington, D.C., but I do remember, like, for the most part, the All-Star game around the fourth quarter got a little serious. But we don't even have that anymore.
No, absolutely not. We don't. All right. So where are you on the great controversy of 2020? Did you vote for, did you think Aaron Gordon won? Did he get robbed, or did you think that DJJ is the rightful champion?
I'll say this: I enjoyed Derek Jones' dunks better. So for me, I don't think he got robbed in this sense. I think Aaron Gordon got robbed in the sense where the way that the format was and the way that the judges were judging at that time, I think he should have won in the sense that there was no way that his dunk was a 47 if Dwight Howard's dunk, I know it was a tribute to Kobe, but that got like a 49. There were other dunks that were way less in that competition that got better scores. So I think he got robbed in the sense that was a 50 or at least a 49 and was better than Derek Jones's 48. But I did enjoy Derek Jones more than I enjoyed Aaron Gordon, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with you. I'm actually in full agreement with you. I actually thought, for the totality of the contest, I thought Derrick Jones had the better dunks. Aaron Gordon's dunks were good too, but I just thought Derrick Jones had better overall dunks to me. I thought they should have. I kind of was. I forgot who made the point last night. Was it Kenny Smith? I thought that it should have basically been a tie after the last round there. I thought it should have been a tie. I thought it should have given the trophy maybe to both guys, and not go to the dunk off or whatever, because it just kind of felt like no matter what the guys, you could tell the guys were a little tired and just kind of scrambling for ideas at that point. And it just kind of, I don't know. To me, it's not a big deal. It's a contest. No one's going to care in 2 days. But I did feel like it was a little corny. And then you also get this aspect of the judges trying to be too cute, maybe trying to intersect themselves into the show by, trying to, you got a 48 instead of a 50, give the guy jumped over a 7'6" guy. Like, give him a 50. Like, come on. Like, stop trying to be cute. Right.
Seriously, I wouldn't be able to jump over your son. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I can't jump. Like, the fact that someone could jump over
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, no, I get it. The guys were just trying to be cute. So it's not a huge deal. It's not going to be something that people are going to talk about for months on. And obviously it's a dunk contest. But what did you think of the evening overall? You thought it was a good Saturday night?
I thought it was amazing. I thought the 3-point contest was great. I thought the skills challenge was great. The dunk contest was amazing. It may not have been the result that a lot of people wanted it to be, but overall, it was one of the better All-Star weekends that I can remember, where the 3-point contest was dope, where the dunk contest was dope, and the skills challenge was good. I even enjoyed the roast afterwards. It was, a little better than I thought it was going to be. I had low expectations going in there, but I don't know if you watched it, but I enjoyed that as well.
I did.
It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was okay. Like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I thought overall it was definitely something the NBA should be proud of.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wasn't as high on the dunk contest as you were. I actually kind of thought the dunk contest, it finished well late. I kind of thought it initially at first, it kind of got off to a boring start. But I thought it ended well. It hit the right crescendo. But yeah, the 3-point contest was amazing. It's phenomenal. I actually think it's crazy how the 3-point contest now has become the new dunk contest, where I'm actually looking forward to that more than the dunk contest itself this year in the last few years. But yeah, the whole evening was pretty cool. I didn't have any major complaints. Again, I think I'm a little lower on the dunk contest than you were, but not by much. I think it finished well, but I think the beginning there was a little rough to watch. But
round one was very rough.
Round one was definitely. I guess we always have this conversation every year, but how do you fix the dunk contest if there is any fixing to it? I do think that there is a lot of work to be done with the dunk contest. Even the years that it is good, it never feels like it satisfies everybody. I guess the big thing for me is just having the big names, man. Like, I would have wanted to see a John Moran out there. I would have wanted to see Zion out there. I know Zion is just coming back from an injury, so maybe that's a little unfair. But I do want to see the bigger names. I do want to see the guys because I think that helps the contest grow to another level when you actually have big names out there competing against each other. I mean, it's still a tragedy to me that we've never seen LeBron in a dunk contest, like that we've never seen Dwayne Wade in a dunk contest, that we've never seen iconic great dunkers in this contest, in the last, 10, 15 years.
I agree with you 1,000%. You need the names in there. And then I proposed a rule on Twitter the other day where now I think this is important. I think what takes away from the dunk contest is, you could miss 3 or 4 dunks and then dunk and get a 50, which is absurd to me.
Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nate Robinson won a contest like that a few years ago against Andre Iguodala, and I'm a Knicks fan, and I thought Iggy got robbed in that dunk contest. So I propose a rule. You miss 1 time, your highest score can only be a 9 that a judge can give you. You miss 2 times, your highest score can be an 8, etc. You miss 3 times, your highest score can be a 7. That way, we're rewarding someone who actually completes a dunk. And that way, there can't be any type of controversy like there was at the end of this. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it makes for a better contest. It'll make for a quicker contest and a less frustrating contest. Aside from that, I don't know what else they can do. You just need to get stars in there. You need Zion. You need Ja. Hopefully, this newer generation is going to be more actively participating in the slam dunk contest. So I'm excited. Every day I see something on Instagram with a high schooler like doing a 780 over 2 people. So I'm sure this new generation is going to bring in a lot of. It's crazy. unbelievable to see this new generation on Instagram and Twitter. It makes me feel so bad about myself that I even thought I was even decent at basketball.
I know, man.
Absurd. They're absurd. So we need more players like that. And I know Zion can do it. I know Ja can do it. And like Miles Bridges too. Someone like him.
Yeah, that's if they want to do it. That's the thing. It's not even we know they could do it. It's just what incentive do they have to do it? I mean, I know Morant's been on record of, and on record by tweets, he's saying that he doesn't want to do it. But, I think if you're a guy of that stature, I think you have not an obligation, because I know that always sounds a little strong, but I think you should do it for the game. Go out there, have a competition, get the big names involved. I think it makes the contest better. Nothing against the Derrick Joneses of the world, but people don't come to Chicago and pay those ridiculous amount of prices for tickets to watch a Derrick Jones. I mean, they just don't. Got to be honest. It's, nothing against the kid. He deserved to win. And that probably will help his profile even greater, but still nobody pays to go see those guys. They want to see the Zions. They want to see the, in years past, they wanted to see LeBron. They wanted to see Wade. They wanted to see those guys. And when you're not giving it to them, I think it does hurt the contest a little bit. Are these guys 100%. The best dunkers in the world? Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm totally with you on the rules. I think, yeah, if you, I know it sounds, it's rough for guys like us who can't jump to save their lives to make these critiques. But yeah, when guys get 3 or 4 attempts to freaking finish a dunk and, oh my God, they got a 50. It's like, yeah, that's always been my little pet peeve. It's like, they took like 4 attempts. Yeah, I get it. Totally get it. All right, man, let's move on. So first half of, the unofficial first half of the season, I know that, most teams have already played 40 something games already, but, I guess the quote unquote first half of the NBA season is in the books. Any surprises for you? Anything that has caught you off guard? Maybe players, team performances. And what are your biggest surprises so far of the first half of the season?
I'm surprised how good the Heat are. We can go one by one. So let's start with the Heat. I think the Heat, to me, I didn't realize how well balanced they were, and a lot of it has to do with Bam Adebayo getting so much better. He's a most improved player of the year candidate. Jimmy Butler, he's a player who I always consider to be maybe a top 15, top 20 player in the league, someone who you can't win a championship with as your best player. But, history is starting to look like it's on his side. He left Chicago because he thought the organization was terribly ran, and look where they are now. It seems like he was right about that. He left Minnesota because he thought Wiggins and Cat were soft and they couldn't win a championship, and he didn't want to be around that culture. Look what's happened in Minnesota since he left. It seems like he was right about that. Maybe he's right about everything he's been saying, and some people like myself just didn't like the way he was saying it, so we kind of just gravitated away from him. I mean, the Heat, they're looking really good. I don't know if they can win the championship, but they're going to be contending in the East. They definitely are. And a large part is because of Jimmy Butler, and, other large part is because Pat Riley knows what the hell he's doing, and whoever evaluates talent in that organization knows what the hell they're doing. Bam has turned a corner. Duncan Robinson, who would have known he would be one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Kendrick Nunn, developing players like him. The whole organization is just one of the best run organizations in the league. And I think it's about time we start noticing that, when LeBron and Wade were there, you just kind of assume, well, yeah, they're one of the best organizations because they have LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. But no, it's like Riley's running a good ship down there. Spoelstra's one of the best coaches in the league, and they develop players correctly. And I think, they're finally going to get their due.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been surprised on the Heat. And the way they've been able to do it just with their player development side of things, just really showing out, developing these guys, finding these gems. I mean, the guys that you're talking about, I mean, these aren't, top 3 picks in the draft. I mean, they're developing very good players out of guys that were, late lottery picks, mid-round picks, second-round picks. Some guys are undrafted. I mean, the way that they've been developing guys in Miami, it's total credit to Pat Riley, that organization. And the way that they've been able to kind of rebuild on the fly, rebuild without, taking 3 steps back. I think that's to be commended too. They haven't had to blow it up and just be terrible. They've been able to rebuild while still being competitive, maybe not being a great team, but, still being competitive, still being a
French playoff team every year.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Spoelstra, I think, is finally starting to get some due as a coach who, for a lot of reasons, I don't understand why he's been so underrated as a coach. I think a lot of that was because of the Heatles and, people kind of just felt like he was along for the ride. But this guy can coach. He's a very good coach. He knows what he's doing. And then, of course, Pat Riley. I mean, what else do you say about Pat Riley? I mean, he's a 5-time NBA champion for a reason. He knows what he's doing. I'm with you. I'm surprised on the Heat. I'm not as high on them that I'm starting to hear this now that, they're a threat to win the East. I'm not there yet with them. I think they're a good team. Nice, solid team. I'm not there yet that I think they're going to win a championship or that they're going to get to a final. I still think that they need a couple more pieces to get over that, to get to that level. But yeah, I think they can be a sneaky team in the East, maybe not win the East, but they can be a conference finalist at best, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. At best, conference finals. I probably have them going out in the semifinals in like a 6 or 7 game series. But to add to your point, a lot of organizations can draft well. They can get some good players. You can have talent on your team, but you have to be able to get players to buy into a system. You have to get players to buy into a style of play. And I think that's what's the most impressive thing about the Heat. Yes, they develop players, and yes, they have good players on their team, and they found talent. But, talent can go awry if one person becomes selfish and wants to hog the ball or doesn't buy into a system. Everyone that he knows what they do well, and they don't try to stretch themselves beyond what they can do. Duncan Robinson knows, okay, I'm a shooter, so I'm going to shoot threes. Bam knows what he can do. Like, everyone has a role. The roles are clearly defined, and they go along. And I feel like a lot of teams in the league, maybe someone like, let's just say the Philadelphia 76ers, they have all the talent in the world, but their roles aren't clearly defined, and you become sort of a mess. So just shout out to the organization, because that takes a lot of communication and a lot of organization. And they just, I'm really impressed with what I see from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you completely on that one. Anything else? Any other surprises? Any other teams that stand out to you as
So the Lakers surprised me in a good way. I didn't expect them to be 41-12 by the All-Star break. I did expect them to be good, but I thought they'd be more around the 4 or 5 seed. Just for the simple fact that LeBron teams start very slow. I thought it would take a while for them to gain chemistry. They don't really have strong guard play. I mean, I know a lot of Laker fans are kind of mad at Rondo. They want to upgrade at the point guard position. And outside of LeBron, they don't really have a playmaker. So I thought they would struggle a little bit. I thought they'd be good, but I thought they struggle a bit. So, I mean, shout out to LeBron and AD for making it work right away. And shout out to Frank Vogel, who nobody talks about. There was a big deal about who the Lakers were going to hire. A lot of people thought they, quote unquote, settled on Vogel, which I didn't understand why. The guy led the Pacers to 2 Eastern Conference finals against the Heatles, took him to Game 7 in one of those. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing, and LeBron obviously respects him, because how can you not respect someone who took you 7 games in the Eastern Conference finals? So I think Frank Vogel deserves more love, and I'm kind of surprised at how well they've played.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. You know me, I'm a Laker fan. I didn't expect this team to click that quick. So that's a pleasant surprise. I'll be honest with you. I did not want Frank Vogel, not because I didn't think he was a good coach. I just I just had my eyes on some better alternatives. I know some folks get mad at me when I bring up Tom Thibodeau. I still think Thibodeau's a great coach. I still think he's a guy that can. Yeah, I'm a Tibbs guy. I'm sorry. I'm a Tibbs guy. I know that's sacrilegious to say you're a Tibbs guy in 2020, but I still think Thibodeau's a good coach. I wanted Thibodeau to coach this team, but whatever. Look, Vogel's a very good coach. I've always been high on Vogel, and he's exceeded my expectations. He's done a really good job, and Jason Kidd hasn't stabbed him in the back yet, so that's even better. So yeah, no, but I think Vogel's done a terrific job. One little complaint is just he hasn't been able to figure out Kyle Kuzma's role in the offense, which is a little bit of a, and that's, look, some of that falls on Kuzma. He's been hurt, and he struggled to kind of find his role within the offense. But some of that is also on Vogel and the coaching staff. Like, you've got a talented guy who, led that team in scoring the last couple years. Figure out a way to better use him within the offense. I know that it's hard to kind of get him touches with AD and LeBron, sharing so much of the load, but you still got to figure out a way to get Kyle Kuzma involved. So that'd be the only knock on Vogel. Some of his rotations are a little wonky sometimes, but I mean, I'm nitpicking. The guy's done a terrific job. 41-12, can't complain. The way that they started the season, phenomenal. They hit a little bit of a rough patch there, kind of the last 2 weeks. I think that was more about the Kobe thing and just kind of the news just hitting the organization hard, more so than the Lakers themselves. themselves. I'm with you. They do need another point guard, especially when LeBron goes out. That's when you see that whole at its biggest is they don't have another playmaker at the guard position. But overall, I mean, that's the one weakness I see with this team. Outside of that, yeah, you're right. I think the Lakers have surprised a lot of people with the way that they've played. Anybody else?
I'll be honest. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Anybody
go
else?
ahead.
Yeah, the Lakers. Okay. So, yeah, I'll be honest. I am a big proponent on the Clippers being better than the Lakers. And I know you're a Laker fan. I'm sorry to say it on your podcast. But the truth is the Lakers have been playing better than the Clippers this year. If there's one team that's struggling with chemistry, it has been the Clippers. And that has surprised me. To your point about Kuzma, and this is why I'm a little worried, is that LeBron, traditionally when his third guy has never really fully stepped up. I mean, Chris Bosh, let's not forget, was on his way to being a Hall of Famer. He was one of the best players, top 10 player in the league. He's one of the Heat. And I'm not putting this all on LeBron, but I can't really think of a time where LeBron, third guy, Kevin Love, same thing, third guy really thrived. So they got to figure that out. I don't know if Kuzma's in his own head. I don't know if it's playing with LeBron. But if Kuzma can return to form to what he was previously for the Lakers, I think they can win the whole thing. Right now, I would put my money on the Clippers, but overall, I'm just really pleasantly surprised at the Lakers because I think it's really good for the league when the Lakers are doing well.
You're not wrong. I mean, on talent alone, on paper, if you measure both rosters, yeah, the Clippers roster is better. I'm not going to argue that with anybody. Yeah. I'm a sane Laker fan. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, oh yeah, I'm not as high on the Clippers as other people are going in, especially going into the season. I wasn't, because I just didn't love the Paul George Kawhi fit. I still think it's a weird fit. They're too similar to me. And I don't love that fit on the court. Yeah, chemistry is also something to worry about with that team. I mean, you got to think about it. That team took the Warriors to 6 games without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard last year. And now you bring those two guys in, and yeah, some of those guys on that team are going to feel some type of way about, basically kind of having their roles reduced. I'm not saying that's the case totally. They've had some injuries. They've had some time where they needed to adjust to each other. But yeah, I think the Clippers right now, I still think them and the Lakers are the two biggest, the two best teams in the West. I know people want to throw the Jazz out there. I know people want to throw some other teams, but honestly, I think you're heading to a collision course in the Western Conference Final between the Lakers and the Clippers. Barring any injuries, barring basically the Lakers, or the Clippers for that matter, basically crapping all over themselves in a series that they lose that they shouldn't. I think you're heading to a collision course with those two teams because honestly, I just don't see any other team in the West that can compete with those teams from a roster perspective. The one advantage I would give the Lakers is anytime they step out on the court with any team, they have arguably the two best players on the court in LeBron and AD. And that's a lot. That's still a huge advantage, especially in the playoffs for any team to say that, push comes to shove, we've got the two best players on the court. That goes a long way. Another point that I want to bring up just quickly on the Lakers is how great AD has been this year. I think a lot of people haven't talked about how great he's been this year. I mean, he's, I've been a AD fan for a while. I was not happy the way he left New Orleans. I thought he orchestrated that and handled that poorly. But he's stepped up. He's taken his game to a whole nother level. Right now, I think he's the defensive player of the year. He's been phenomenal for the Lakers.
He's been absolutely phenomenal. It goes under the radar for whatever reason, maybe because LeBron's in Los Angeles. But if AD wasn't phenomenal, they wouldn't be 41-12 right now. It just is what it is. He's fit in seamlessly. He's worked really well with LeBron. A lot of people say he can't be your number one player based off the fact that he never really took the Pelicans far. But you can't name me 4 or 5 players better than Anthony Davis. You can't do it. I don't care what anybody says. The man is. He can shoot. He can drop. He can do everything. You can't name me. You know what I mean? I think he gets less credit because of the way the Pelicans struggled and that franchise's inability to put the right players around him. But come on, you got 2 of the top 5 players in the league, and we got to stop this Kawhi's better than LeBron nonsense. He's not better than LeBron yet. I'm sorry, he's not. A healthy LeBron James is better than Kawhi Leonard, and I can see if somebody wants to take AD over Kawhi as well. I mean, Kawhi. Not that he hasn't been impressive this year, but he is what he is. He's not on the upper echelon with the LeBrons, with the Giannis's. I don't care what anybody says. He's not.
I think we're going to disagree a little bit there on that one.
I'm going to correct myself with this one. I'm going to correct this. I think him and Giannis are on that plateau. I got to see more from Giannis because Giannis last year in the playoffs, I think, kind of got exposed a little bit. I got to see Giannis do something. I wouldn't say extraordinary, but I got to see that you learned from last year. I got to see that you're going to be able to make the adjustments when the game slows down in the playoffs, and that you can do. You can deliver for your team. The jury's still out for me and Giannis, personally.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, not extraordinary. I mean, the Raptors implemented the 36 bear defense on Giannis. I mean, they basically built a wall around him and just said shoot. Like I've never seen that where a team basically implemented an NFL defense to stop a guy and just like just take jump shots. I mean. Yeah, look, I'm with you on Giannis. Look, he's an incredibly talented individual. We're not trying to shit on Giannis, but he's got a lot to prove in this postseason too. He can win. He's going to win another MVP. That team's going to have the best record in the NBA again. But that team's got to prove that when the game slows down, Giannis can take over games without being in transition, and that's the biggest proving point that he's going to have to prove. I don't love that team as much as other people do. I still think they're missing something. They're still missing another guy. I think in the postseason, not having Malcolm Brogdon is going to hurt them. I really believe that. I'm not an Eric Bledsoe guy. I don't think you can win a championship with Eric Bledsoe being your primary point guard. So that's just me there. But I got to see more. I got to see more from the I want to say the Clippers, the Bucks. As far as Kawhi, look, Kawhi is weird to evaluate because it's like the load management stuff is always gets on my nerves. I think when Kawhi is at his best, I think he is one of the top 3 or 4 players in the NBA, without a doubt. Would I take him over LeBron? It's a hard argument because LeBron is one of the great players in the history of the world, in the history of basketball. So it always seems a little unfair when you're making those comparisons. Last year, Kawhi was better. I mean, it's not even an argument. LeBron had one of his worst seasons, not statistically we know, but just from an effort standpoint, LeBron had a terrible season last year. And Kawhi won a championship. So I think a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, has Kawhi closed the gap between himself and LeBron? And I think it's a lot closer than you make it out to be. I still would go with LeBron over Kawhi, but I can't argue if somebody wants to take Kawhi going forward over LeBron.
Well, going forward, yeah. I mean, LeBron is at the end of his prime right now, so he's obviously going to, decrease or level off at some point, even though I can't believe how well he's playing this year. But yeah, Kawhi won the championship. The Raptors won the championship. It's not to take anything away. It really isn't. But you face an injured Warriors team. I think they caught a lot of good breaks there, and Kawhi was phenomenal. I'm not taking anything away from him. But a healthy LeBron, to me, it's obvious. LeBron is still better than Kawhi.
It's a good debate. It's a good debate. I mean, saying one of the 5 to 10 best players in the history of the NBA is better than Kawhi Leonard is not a travesty or a crime. So
not at all. And it's no knock on Kawhi. I mean, Kawhi's phenomenal. Right. He's a 2-time NBA Finals MVP, a champion like that. He's great. He is freaking great. I don't want anyone to think I'm not saying Kawhi is great. He is amazing. He's great. LeBron has surprised me. After last year, I thought his career was going to go on a decline. I thought Laker fans were going to be disappointed with how his Laker tenure was going to go. And he's completely did a 180 and is back to being old LeBron. It's absurd.
I still think he takes too many threes, but that's just me. dribble 3, LeBron just pisses me off. Yeah, I know. I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just saying, man. I'm like, God, LeBron, use your natural ability. I wish he posted up more. I really do. I think when he posts up, I think he's actually better than people think. Yeah, that's just I know it's a nitpick, but still, just it's just annoying when it's like that dribble for like 5-6 seconds, and then he hoists a 30-footer. It's just like Jesus Christ, LeBron, come on! And then the free throws, come on! You're one of the great players in the history of the NBA. You're not a center. You should be better at free throws than you are. 69%. Come on. So, I know I'm nitpicking.
No, you're right. The free throw thing is something that he deserves to be nitpicked at, though. I mean,
he's gotten worse with it, though. But he's gotten worse at it.
It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
How do you get worse at free throws? Like that still hasn't gone explained to me. Like he was never the greatest at the free throw line, but he was competent. He was above 75%. And really the last few years,
I need answers.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. Like that shit that pisses me off. But yeah, we won't harp too much on that. But anybody else that's a surprise, negatively or positively?
I'm really pissed off and surprised at the Sixers. I picked them to win the East. I thought the Horford signing was great. You and I had this conversation.
We did. I think you were higher on the Sixers than I was, and I told you I was like, I didn't really love the Sixers.
Yep. And also shout out to you were high on the Celtics, and you're looking really good on that right now. But the Sixers, to me, like when you get Horford, you get one of the better defenders and defenders in the league. It's not like he's difficult to work with offensively. He can pop out and shoot if he wants to. You can post if you want. You can do it. So like having him fit in from a chemistry standpoint shouldn't be that difficult. They should not be having this hard of a time to fit Al Horford into their system. But Al Horford's having one of the worst years of his careers for whatever reason. A lot of it is Brett Brown. A lot of it is spacing. A lot of it is Joel Embiid. Age is another thing. That's true. I mean, he's not in his prime anymore. But at the same time, it's like, damn, like you got all of this talent. You have Josh Richardson now, who's one of the better 3-and-D players in the league. There's no reason why they shouldn't be the number 1 seed or at least the number 2 seed in the East. I mean, the Bucks have been playing out of their mind, so I'll give you the number 2 seed. I am so disappointed with them, and I'm so disappointed with Ben Simmons giving us all of this material during the summer where you're hitting fadeaway jumpers, and then the time comes for you to do it in the game, and you won't even take a 12-footer. I'm not even saying 3-pointer. You won't even take a 12-footer. That's ridiculous. I'm mad at them. I'm not even a Sixers fan, and I'm mad at them.
Listen, man, I'm letting you vent right now, and everything you're saying is true. I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. I called it.
I know you're not. I don't. You warned me.
This trust the process Sixers. I've never bought into it. To me, Joel Embiid is missing something. To me, he is the modern day version of Dwight Howard. He's got all the talent in the world and he has no heart. He doesn't have that, people, and they get mad at me because, we live in this new age of everybody counts stats and that doesn't count the intangibles. I look at the intangibles of the game. And to me, Joel Embiid is one of those guys that is supremely talented. Joel Embiid on paper and talent alone can be one of the great centers to ever play this game, but he just doesn't have that Mamba mentality, whatever you want to call it, that just rip your heart out, that I want to be great every single night. He's too concerned with being a troll and being a comedian on Instagram and getting one up on his opponents instead of being the best player on the court each and every single night. That's the problem with Joel Embiid. Plus the fact that he's always hurt. I mean, the guy is literally it's always something with Joel Embiid. He wakes up out of bed wrong. He's on the DL for a couple days. He sneezes wrong. He's got this. He's got a finger issue. He's got that. I mean, it's kind of like, part of greatness is availability. Part of being great is playing each and every single night and giving it 110% every night. Part of greatness is that. And Joel Embiid, he just doesn't have it. Just doesn't have it. It's no knock against him. He just doesn't have it. Now, hopefully it's something that he's still young. So hopefully it'll develop in time. Maybe a coaching change, maybe bringing somebody that'll motivate and bring that out of him. But I just don't know. And the other aspect about that team is just, I think they're going to have to make a decision eventually. Ben Simmons or Embiid. I just don't know if those two guys can fit together. I don't think they like each other. I think there's something on that. They should be. Look, I'm not a huge Brett Brown fan, but he's not a horrible coach. Like, he's a better coach than I think people give him. Like, he's being scapegoated as the reason why that team hasn't taken the next step. And part of that is true, but there's something with that team. I don't know what it is. There's just something there that I don't like. Ben Simmons, I'm with you. It's just, I don't get that he's a great leader. He's not a leader of men. He's not a guy that I think people want to rally around or play behind. And you need that from a point guard, especially when you play that position. You need to have that leadership quality. I think they're going to have to make a decision eventually about those two guys. Can those two guys work? Can they fit? Because right now, I don't think it's looking that good.
This summer they have to make it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they're going to have to decide before they decide to pay Ben Simmons all that money. I know they're already paying Embiid. Like, I think they're going to have to make a decision. Who would you choose? Would you choose Simmons? Would you choose Embiid?
Man, I would choose Simmons for the simple fact I think he's easier to build around, and everything you just said about it, Embiid, I would like to echo. Availability. Like, why would I choose someone who's not available? It makes absolutely no sense. I do think Embiid's probably the better player, but Embiid hasn't shown it really. In my mind, he should be a top 3 MVP candidate every year. The Sixers should be a 1 or 2 seed, and it should be because of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and he should be having his name in these conversations, and he's just simply not. It's ridiculous. And to piggyback off of your Brett Brown point, I do agree with you too. I don't think Brett Brown's that bad. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's bad at all. You know, you have to work with the pieces given to you, and every single possession with the Sixers, it's like, okay, what are they going to do here? Like, I don't know that they have any direction whatsoever. Like, they don't have a plan. They don't have like a consistent pick and roll game. They don't have a consistent throw it into the post game. Like, they don't do anything consistently. There's no identity whatsoever. It's just basically kind of rolling with the punches, which is a thing that teams should learn how to do. But when it comes to the playoffs and when it comes to the defenses getting set and focusing on you, and it's game 5, game 6, and they're throwing new things at you, you have to be able to be really good at something. And they're not really good at anything in particular. It's just when the talent takes over, that's why they win games. But I can't tell you an offensive set or system that they run that like is their go-to and bread and butter. Whereas with the Bucks, I can tell you kick it out to 3, whatever. I can tell you something for everybody. With them, I can't even tell you what they do well. There's nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, and that's on Brett Brown. That point you made there, that's on Brett Brown. That team doesn't have an identity. Yeah, but they don't know what they want to do. But because the coach is the one that creates the identity.
He does, but the players too. Like, if Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons aren't buying in, at some point you gotta point to the players, because you can bring in any coach and they're still going to be feuding with each other and their talents are still going to clash. I really can't think of any offense to run with them, except I would personally try to run a pick and roll offense with Embiid rolling to the hoop and Simmons taking it, but Simmons refuses to take that 12 to 14 foot jumper when defenses sag off of him.
And so Embiid refuses to play in the post. And Embiid refuses to play in the post.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So if you're Brett Brown, like, what do? You let Embiid shoot threes, because if you don't let Embiid shoot threes, he's going to the media and he's pissed off. You know, you let Ben Simmons do what he does and just hope that he has a nice night shooting in the paint and creating for other people. It's almost like, you know, what can he do? What can he do? Because his players aren't doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I do think the Ben Simmons shooting thing gets a little overplayed. I agree with you. The guy should be a better shooter at this point. I mean, he's been in the league now, 3-4 years? You should know how to hit a 12-shooter by now. Like, that's no excuse. That being said, I don't believe they haven't won because he can't shoot. Like, I don't buy into that narrative per se, because I still think he's a mismatch problem every single time he touches the ball. So I don't agree with that. Like, he can score 20 points in his sleep if he wanted to. But, Ben Simmons is weird too. Like, sometimes I'm just like, does he want to be great? He's another guy. Like, I'm just like, I don't get he's a weird guy to evaluate. I mean, he really is. That team is just weird, man.
Yep.
You know what the problem with the Sixers are is that they want to out talent you. They're very arrogant, trust the process and all that BS. Like, oh, we just step out on the court and we're just going to out talent you. Like, no. Like, there's been a lot of teams in NBA history that had all the talent in the world, but guess what? They had coaching, they had a game plan, they had an identity. They didn't just out talent you. And it's the same goes for the Sixers. Yep. It's like they have talent, they do, but it's just it's a very arrogant kind of view of the NBA, where it's just like, oh, we're just gonna run our 5 guys out there with Embiid and Simmons, and we're just gonna out talent you. And clearly that's not working. They got to do something. And it might be drastic as choosing. I think it's going to be. I'm not going to say this summer. I think they could probably afford to do one more year of this experiment. They're because what's going to happen. They're going to fire Brett Brown, and he's going to be the scapegoat, and he's going to be the guy that now he's gone. See, we've rid ourselves of right. Brett Brown, and now we're going to bring in a new coach, and he's going to figure it out. And the new coach is going to be the guy that figures it out. And then, of course, they get the new coach, and then he has the same problem that Brett Brown had. So they still haven't played the new card, the new head coach card yet. So I still think they'll be patient with that. But eventually, I think they're going to have to make a choice between Embiid and Simmons. I really believe that.
And what does it say that we spent the whole discussion about the 76ers and not one time did I mention or did you mention Tobias Harris? Like, what? You got to He's been invisible.
Listen,
and a lot
man.
of it has to do with,
man.
like, it's crazy. It's crazy. They gave him so much money, and, yeah, it's crazy.
The fact that Tobias Harris makes 180, 84, 80. I mean, listen,
it's crazy.
I never hate on a guy's pocket because listen, I'm a big believer in your worth is what someone's willing to pay you. That being said, right. Jesus Christ, Tobias Harris, $184 million. I mean, really? I mean, this is, I know the NBA TV money is just ridiculous, but come on. I mean, 180. I mean, that's my problem with the NBA now too, is, I mean, some of these guys are just getting paid ridiculous levels of, I mean, really? $184 million for Tobias Harris? It's a good player, solid, ridiculous. Nice player. But he's not $184 million. But I mean, if Tobias Harris is $184 million, I mean, how much is Zion going to make? How much is John Morant going to make in a few years? I mean, think about it. Think about it. I mean, these guys are going to be making $300 million soon.
You're right.
No wonder Brady wants $30 million from some sucker NFL team because he's looking at Tobias Harris making $35 million. I know it's a different sport, but I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, seriously? Tobias Harris? Yeah, man. Yeah. The Sixers are interesting. I mean,
that's the sad part. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, look, the Sixers. It's amazing. I'm laughing secretly as you were venting about them, but it's like honestly, none of this surprised me. I didn't love the Horford fit. To me, I thought the Horford was it was redundant to Simmons, to Embiid. So I didn't really like that pick. Plus, Horford is getting older. So I don't know how much did you expect him to really contribute on this team. He should be better than what he's played this year, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think the Sixers.
I think I just overestimated the Sixers' willingness to fit in with each other. I think Embiid and Simmons have just been stubborn, and you have to be willing to play with other people, and they obviously just aren't.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they need their Phil Jackson. They need their guy that's going to come in and say, "You guys need to figure it out." And the Zen master himself, and meetings in Montana. I mean, they need something because right now it's just not working. They need to figure it out, and there's too much talent on that team for them to be a middling team in the East.
I agree, 1,000%, and I'm ashamed that I picked them to win. Ashamed of myself.
Well, I mean, no, listen, man, you're not. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, on talent, they should be better than what they've been, and they haven't. So, yeah, I'm just interested
they
to
can
see.
Click in it and run away with it.
Yeah, they could click, absolutely. So I don't want to completely dog them out. I mean, they could figure it out eventually, but honestly, if they haven't figured it out already, I don't see it. I mean, they'll be better. They'll make a run. Every team in the NBA makes a run at some point. They'll be better, but. Yeah, I just don't see it with that team. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm starting to fall on the same side as you.
Yeah. I mean, anybody else? Any other team that you want to bring up as a surprise, or any team that you want to focus on real quick before we switch gears?
Just really shortly, I'm also a little disappointed in the Jazz, specifically Mike Conley. I think it's another case with Al Horford where I thought he was a perfect fit, and he's just older. He just hasn't really fit in very well with the team. I think Gobert kind of messes up his spacing a little bit. Not that I want to blame Gobert. Gobert is one of the better centers in the league, but offensively, I don't think he gels with Connolly too much because Connolly needs a little more space around the rim. But yeah, the Jazz, I was one of those people too who was high on the Utah Jazz going in. I thought they got Bogdanovich, which was needed. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league, and I thought Connolly is one of the more underrated point guards in the league, and they seem to have everything. You have shooting now. You have leadership at the point guard position. You have a defensive center. You have wings, you have everything. Donovan Mitchell, everything. And, they're 36 and 18, the 4 seed right now, and they've been playing better as of late. But I thought they could win the West, and now, to me, it's a 2-team race, and that's both teams in Los Angeles.
Well, I think we had this argument over the summer, too, about the Jazz. You were higher on them than I was, and I just kind of was, oh, no. I will say that I'm higher on the Jazz than I am the Sixers. For sure. Right. I think with the Jazz, I think it's just more about Conley being older. That's why I didn't love that trade as much as other people did. Just because I was like, Conley's a good player and he still can count, and he's played okay for them. I don't want to sit there and completely dog on him, but he just is this, are they getting the Mike Conley of 2011 or are they getting the Mike Conley of 2018, 2019? It's an older Mike Conley, not as good as he used to be. But I mean, to me, I think the Jazz are kind of right where they should be. I mean, I just wasn't that high on them. I think the Jazz are a very good team, but I think they're one of those teams that are second round and out. I don't think they're any better than that.
Yeah.
I think they're still missing another piece. Maybe Donovan Mitchell takes another step and he plays them better than plays them past the second round or better than their record. But right now, as currently constituted, I think they're a second round team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's right now it's Lakers, Clippers, and the one selling point the NBA had going into the season was like, there's 8 teams that can win the championship, and now that we're halfway into it, I'm like, no, not really. There's about
I never bought into that one. Yeah, I didn't think the Warriors would basically be taking a gap year. I mean, I didn't see that one coming. Before we switch gears though, what do you make of the ratings decline in the NBA? Because that's been a big story this season. Kind of one of the things kind of off the court that a lot of people have been talking about and giving their hypothesis for. What do you attribute to the ratings decline in the NBA? I know there's an inexact science ratings. A lot of things can contribute to it, but what would you say are your chief items of what's caused the ratings decline over the last few years?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. There's a lot of nuance to this. I do think that, LeBron being on the West Coast and West Coast games starting later for people on the East Coast has something to do with it. I do think that the Warriors being bad has something to do with it. There's no kind of villain team out there. Steph is hurt. He's one of the more exciting players in the league, whether you like him or not. So you can't watch Steph Curry. Klay Thompson's not in the league right now, so he can't go off. Kevin Durant's injured, so you can't watch Kevin Durant. The Knicks are bad. The Nets, even though they have Kyrie, they still have not gained any interest whatsoever. So you have a whole market in New York that really does not give a damn about basketball. And then on top of that, I feel like with players moving around so much, it's harder to grow connections with teams now. I feel like a lot of people are just fans of players, and you kind of fall out of love with your team easily. I mean, I'll speak for myself as a Knicks fan. I love the Knicks, but at the end of the day, like, there's so many different players coming and going that it's just like, I don't really even, identify with my team that much anymore. And I'm talking as from a team that really hasn't changed players as much as other teams have changed. So it's accumulation of a lot of different things. It really is. I don't think there's just one thing you can point to. I know NBA Twitter likes to point to the fact that Bleacher Report likes reporting on Alex Caruso all the time, and this is why ratings are down. And I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's just a lot of different things where the superstars that a lot of people like watching are injured right now. A lot of people are Heat fans because Dwayne Wade was on the Heat. A lot of people are Lakers fans because Kobe Bryant was on the Lakers. Mm-hmm. And when your player is not playing, you don't watch or you don't really care as much. So I think a lot of it has to do with that. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's part of it. I will also say that there are other items that I would throw into the mix there. I think load manager. I am pleasantly surprised that you haven't seen the load management discussion as much this season as in other years. Although, the Clippers are still doing the load management thing with Kawhi. I think load management has contributed to this over the last few years. I think if you're a fan of a team, I think it's hurt the perception amongst the fans of the regular season. I think that when fans view that the players don't care about the regular season, then why should the fans care? You know what I mean? Like, why if you're a Clippers fan and Kawhi's taking a night off because he wants to rest for the playoffs, then why would you watch that game? Aside from the fact that you're just a Clippers fan and you just want to watch it, yeah. Like like if the best player on the team doesn't want to play that night and doesn't want to give that game any ounce of care, then you as a fan, like why would you care? Why would you make that appointment television? I think that contributes a lot to it. Great point. The devaluing of the regular season has hurt a lot of this. I really do. I think there's a perception amongst fans. I know myself, and I'm a Laker fan, so I'm speaking from a guy that's rooting for one of the best teams in the league. Like the regular season doesn't mean as much as in the other sports. It's like if I miss a Laker game, it's like, oh shoot, I missed a Laker game. But I'll catch the highlights and it's like whatever. It's like it's not the end of the world. It's not. There isn't that. Even baseball. People rag on baseball. It's 162 games, and yes, missing one baseball game isn't the end of the world. But the regular season in baseball matters. Obviously, we all know about the NFL. Like.
in basketball, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter if you miss game 49, Lakers Kings. It just doesn't matter. And I think that's effective. I really do.
I don't know what the solution for this is, but I think divisions need to be taken more seriously. Like, let's just take football, for instance. I'm a Giants fan. NFC East, I hate the Redskins. I hate the Eagles. I hate the Cowboys. For the Knicks, I don't really care about the Raptors. I don't care about the Nets, to be honest with you. The Celtics, I don't like because they're from Boston, but I don't really hate them. Same with the Sixers. I don't like Philadelphia sports, but I don't hate the Sixers. If there was a way to emphasize divisional games and making your division really effing important so that, there's 4 other teams in my division. We play them 4 times a year. That's 16. So 16 games, I'm zoned in and hating my opponent. I think that'd help a lot, but divisions mean nothing in the NBA. And I think a lot of people don't really talk about that, AL East, I'm a Yankee fan. I effing hate the Red Sox. Every single time we play the Red Sox, I'm watching that game. And with the NBA, you don't really have that. Laker fans maybe have that with the Clippers, but that's just recently. Aside from that, I can't tell you another rivalry within not just within the division, within the league in general. And I think that's missing. And I think the hatred for other teams is missing.
Well, don't you think that the divisions don't matter in basketball because of the current playoff structure? It's hard to care about divisions when you're putting in 8 teams and seeding. To me, seedings matters more than divisions and division championships. I can't tell you how many Pacific Division championships the Lakers have won. I don't know, 20, 30.
Right. It don't mean nothing. It means nothing.
I can't tell you. Absolutely nothing. That's why I've always been abolished the divisions, because nobody cares. I honestly, I will tell you, I don't even know who plays in the Southwest Division. I don't even know who plays in the Pacific Northwest Division, if there is. I couldn't tell. If I had to guess the NBA divisions to save my life, I'd be dead, because I don't know. I couldn't.
Give me the Pacific Division.
I know the Atlantic Division and the Pacific, maybe. Right. That's about it. Yes, I think they do need to make the divisions matter more, but I just think it's hard when you have the current playoff structure. I've been a proponent of making the 16 best teams, regardless of conference.
Right.
I think that would fix a lot of this. I think if you're because think about it, in the East, you're going to have, outside of the top 4 or 5 teams, and the same for the West too. I mean, you're going to have some teams that don't. I love the Grizzlies. I love the story of the Grizzlies, but do they really deserve to be a playoff team? Does anybody think that the Grizzlies are going to play the Lakers to any competition whatsoever in the postseason? Nobody believes that, do they? You don't need that in the NBA. You don't need that in the first round is a waste of time a lot of times, because you have these teams that shouldn't be in the playoffs, and they're getting slaughtered by these top seeds. Yeah, so I think changing the playoff format would help a lot. But look, I agree with you. It's an inexact science. There's a lot of things that contribute to the NBA ratings decline. I think LeBron being on the West Coast is part of it, although I don't buy into that as much, because there's been great players that have played on the West Coast before and the ratings were good. So I don't necessarily buy into that. I know LeBron's a different animal all into himself, but I don't buy into that as much. But I do think that there are a combination of things. I can't just say that it's just one thing over the other. But I'm just interested to get your point on it, because it's been a topic of discussion, I know, on my podcast and a lot of shows that I've come on and discussed it. What's the reason behind the ratings being what they are, and I'm always interested to hear what everybody kind of surmises on what the problems could be.
Yeah, and I think everybody is right in their own respect. It's definitely a little bit of whatever everyone says. It's just not an exact science, and it's not.
There's no wrong answers. Yeah, absolutely. There's no wrong answers. All right, so we'll shift gears a little bit. First and foremost, are you buying stock in the Shadow app?
No, not at all, man. God, no.
Man, listen. I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while.
Yeah.
Really, DNC, really an app to help you better track the Iowa caucuses. And it's not even so much the idea of it, right? But the fact that you would implement this app and the Buttigieg campaign funds part of the app. Like, no one thought that this was a problem. Like, no one thought that maybe, just maybe, that this could be a problem, like a conflict of interest. No, nobody thought that was, no adult in the room said, guys said, yeah, it's probably not a good thing to do. Like, oh God. Where are you on the primaries?
The primaries, I mean, I'm full throttle Bernie supporter, like 1,000% for Bernie. It's frustrating because, for me, the Republican Party is a party that is obviously morally bankrupt, corrupt, just on the wrong side of history. And being that we have a two-party system, you would think the other party would be just the complete opposite. But it's so frustrating. It's like I don't even consider myself a Democrat for the reasons that Iowa just showed. Like, they are corrupt. They are bought by big money. At the end of the day, I think for the most part, what someone like Buttigieg is doing, they pander to minorities and pander to those who are in marginalized communities. It is so frustrating to have the one party that can defeat quote-unquote evil in your country be so incompetent. It is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. I think, for a progressive like myself, it's actually very frustrating that in the mainstream media circles, our views or my views, I don't want to speak for you. I do know that we do have some.
No, I'm a progressive. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like how the fuck is free healthcare at the point of entry radical for a radical idea? How is that radical?
It's not a radical idea, man. It's just that it upsets the apple cart. All of this is about upsetting people's bank accounts. Yeah. People don't like Medicare for all. Everybody knows that morally it's the right thing to do, but they don't want to do it because God forbid, my donor that works in the insurance, but big pharma gets upset and doesn't want to cut me that check. It's all about money. The problem in politics today, the partisanship or the lack of partisanship in government today is not about some, it's this or it's that. It's money. Take money out of politics. The fact that politics has become so fragmented is because these guys are getting checked. Like, everybody wonders, like, oh, why don't they cut? Why don't they actually cut a not even a revolutionary gun bill, but just a run-of-the-mill gun reform bill. Why don't they? Because the NRA funds half of these politicians. Right. So what incentive do they have to cut on both sides? Exactly. This is not. Look, you're not going to listen to this podcast and hear me, throw roses and bouquet at the Democratic Party. They're all corrupt. They're all morally bankrupt. Right. So this idea that, that like take for instance, this big showcase that Pelosi and the rest of her minions throw out there with this impeachment trial, yet they pass and they approve Donald Trump's basically new version of NAFTA. Like, how is that even possible? You're on one side of your face, you're telling us that Trump is this horrible person, this morally corrupt individual, get him out of office, blah, 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 blah. But yet we're going to let him still run the government. And, oh, by the way, we're going to basically, approve and let him pass, NAFTA 2.0. And it's just so frustrating. And a bloated military budget,
and we're supposed to be against all wars. Like, come on, like, stop the bullshit. And what frustrates me is you have people who fall hook, line, sinker for this fucking bullshit. That's the most upsetting thing to me. It's like, how can a candidate like Pete Buttigieg come so far without standing for anything? He says nothing. He says absolutely nothing. Like, go back. Like, the Young Turks have done this. I know the Hill has done this a lot, but they've basically like transcribed everything that he says on the campaign stump, and it's just like he literally says nothing. He doesn't say anything. He answers questions with questions, and he basically throws big words out there. And if you like actually dissect the meaning of what he's actually trying to talk about, he says nothing. He offers nothing. Nothing. Unbelievable.
I mean, it's just so frustrating. And you brought up the military budget, right? Like, how offensive it is when people tell me, like, oh, well, how much is it going to cost to pass, Medicare for all? How much is it going to cost to have a student loan forgiveness? I'm like, we're paying the military-industrial complex $800 billion, but we can't figure out a way to basically get health care for everybody in this country. Like, really? Like, you expect me to believe that? Like, honestly, you really expect me to believe that? And it's so frustrating because it's like nobody ever asks us, how are you going to pay for a war in Iran? Nobody ever asks us that.
Right.
Or how are you going to pay for this intervention war in the middle in Central America?
Here's a blank check. Here's a blank check.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, what also frustrates me too is when they do ask the question, how are you going to pay for it? And Bernie says, oh, we'll tax Wall Street speculation. So we're not even taking from the freaking military budget. We're not even saying cut the military budget, which I do think we should do. But the answer given to you has anything to do with the military budget. So we're not even like conceding on that. We're basically saying, hey, let's tax Wall Street a little bit, and not the rich people, but the fact that there's transactions on Wall Street. It still rubs people the wrong way. It's unbelievable.
Because the Wall Street funds these networks. Wall Street funds these parties. I mean, they're not stupid. They buy influence in these parties. Wall Street, it's funny.
Literally on transactions. It's on the fact that you're doing a transaction. It's not on it's not off of what you're making. It's off the fact, okay, there's a transaction done. Give us a fucking penny. There's so many transactions in Wall Street.
So that poor class family in Wichita, Kansas can fucking go to the doctor and not be bankrupt for the rest of their lives because, mom needs a freaking kidney replacement, or a hip replacement. Like these are the things that we're talking about right now. And it's like, it doesn't correlate with people. And it's like, I used to think that it was just a fundamental difference of opinion. No, it's just that these people, it affects these people's way of life. It affects these people's bank accounts. That's what it is. They don't care about the moral issues involved here. They care about their bank accounts. And it's the same all for these elites, these Wall Street bankers, these corporate entities, these cable news networks, all of them. They're all alike. They're all corporations who make money off of the basically the plight of working class and poor people in this country.
But it's also the people who vote for these policies as well. I mean, I don't want to let the voting base off the hook because you have to convince 60 million people to go to bullshit, and they have. And, a lot of it is, I talk to a lot of my friends. I'm originally from the Bronx, but I moved up to Rockland County, which is basically middle-class New York. And what I think a lot of middle-class people don't realize is that you don't know poor people. Like, you don't. You don't hang out with poor people. You don't go to school with poor people. You know nothing about poor people. So they think that all poor people are basically mooching off the government and living off of welfare. And they have this perception of what it's like to be poor, that you can easily just move up in society by trying hard, by believing in the American dream. And I feel like most of this country just has that false perception of what it's like to be poor. And they don't realize they have more in common with someone who's poor than the billionaires that they continue to defend. It makes absolutely no sense to me that a small business owner who might make $100,000, maybe $200,000, $300,000 a year thinks they have more in common with a billionaire complaining about higher taxes than they do with a poor person who's trying to feed their fucking family paycheck to paycheck. There's this disconnect with the middle class that is just kind of baffling to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the Republican Party has done a great job of making those people feel like they're on their side because no one likes money taken out of their paycheck. And when you mention higher taxes going to benefit poor people, it's almost like, oh, they don't deserve it. They what are they doing? But they're doing the same thing you're doing, buddy. It's the same exact thing. You have nothing in common with the people above you who are feeding you this message.
Yeah, it's man. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, it's just so baffling that we continue to vote against our own interests for so long, not just from a class perspective, from a race perspective, from a protected group perspective. I mean, it's so mind-boggling to me. I mean, and it's in a way it's perfect politics because it's finding a way to weaponize, race and identity politics to fit, your agenda. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not about immigrants taking your jobs. It's about, like Andrew Yang says, it's about automation. It's about big businesses finding ways and loopholes to make money, like for instance, if you're Amazon, why would you ever pay a guy in Seattle $20 an hour when you can basically, build a plant in, Bahrain somewhere, all over, overseas, and pay them 10 cents an hour to do the same job. Why would you do that? It's just from a business perspective, it makes total sense. Like, if I can get away with it, why would I pay somebody $20 when I can pay them 10 cents an hour?
Right.
It's just perfect sense. And it's just like,
no,
it's
you're
just
right.
so
Exactly.
frustrating. It's so frustrating because, like you said, it's just like people continue to buy into this bullshit for so long. And I really do think it's an age division. Like, I think people our age finally have caught on to the bullshit, to the lies that people have been telling us, our parents and people before us have been telling us for years, that, the brass ring story, that if you just work hard, that fairy tale that they've been telling us forever, if you just work hard and go to school, you'll be there, you hang in there, you'll just magically achieve the successes and the riches that the Bill Gateses of the world have all achieved just by working hard and closing their eyes and just shutting up and just going to work every day, not complaining. And it's absolute bullshit. And you got millennials and Gen Zers who are like, no, like, people are coming out of school in $80,000 in debt. Like, what hope does this person have? Like, what? I mean, think about it. If you're a kid in college right now, right, and if you decide that by some foolish way, right, because God forbid somebody's foolish enough to actually want to pursue an education and actually want to, better themselves in life and want to pursue an education and say, you know what, mommy and daddy, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to, go learn to be a freaking doctor, right? They've, at this point, they've done 8 years of schooling. They're massively in debt. They're almost $100K in debt. Like, what hope do they have of actually having a life where they're not debt free, where they can actually contribute into the economy, buy a house, have kids, when you're constantly in massive debt? I had this conversation with a friend of mine that I work with, right? And I was like, I make more, and not to brag, not to put myself on a pedestal, but I make more money than my mom and my dad, than people in my family have ever made. And it doesn't even feel like it. It doesn't even feel like it.
Because I
don't feel like, wow, yeah, I'm paying off debt. I'm paying off a increasing cost of living by the year. Right. Just cost of living is going up everywhere. There is no place where, this is, I mean, of course, some places are cheaper than others, obviously, but for the most part, I mean, it's like everybody complains about, New York and LA being expensive. I live in Seattle. It's fucking expensive to live here. Expensive as fuck to live here. Like, so you get no respite anywhere. And it's like, I just sat down and thought about it. I'm like, I'm in a household where me and my wife and I together combined pull in over 100K. And it doesn't even feel like it. And I'm not saying it to brag. It doesn't even feel like it. It just doesn't. Right. Like, there's a problem. Like, there is. And you brought the middle class. Like, there is no middle class anymore. There is no middle class anymore.
You're right, because even the middle class, they're struggling to pay. They're struggling paycheck to paycheck as well, and they don't realize that it's the same thing with the poor person. They're struggling paycheck to paycheck, just like someone they would consider poor, just on a bigger scale. You have a house, they have an apartment. That's really all it is.
Right. You have a good job that you hate, and they work at McDonald's. There's no difference. There's no difference. And then, of course, you tell these people, oh, shut up. You're just bitching. You're just moaning. Think about it. Like, we're still having a debate in this country about minimum wage being $15 an hour. Like because people still think that.
And we haven't raised the minimum wage in 10 years. Yeah.
Yes. Like, people think that $7 an hour, like, oh, what's the problem? Why can't these people survive off of $7 an hour? Like, seriously?
Well, what pisses me off about that discussion is
every year the cost of living. Yeah, go ahead. My bad.
The disingenuous argument of, like, so you're saying they should make just as much as an EMT worker or a police officer? It's like we're not saying that their value is worth more than an EMT or a police officer. But what we are saying is that every single person deserves to make enough money where they can feed themselves and shelter themselves. So to me, right? The wording and the disingenuous arguments coming from the other side pisses me off even more, because I can't fathom how someone even latches on to that. How do you latch on? How do 60 million people latch on to the idea of, oh, that person, if you're someone working at McDonald's, you don't deserve to have shelter and feed yourself and your family? Like, that's effing crazy. People are not working at McDonald's because they want to work at McDonald's. People are working at McDonald's for extenuating circumstances that might have happened in their lives, and they can't get another job, or they can't find another job, or that might be their second job because they can't make enough money to feed their family off of their first job. Like it's freaking crazy.
And guess what? Even if they can't get another job, even if they just choose to work at McDonald's for the rest of their life, they should still be able to be paid a living fucking wage.
Yes.
Like, who cares?
Yes.
Like, who cares?
Yes.
Like, guess what? Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a federal employee or a city employee. Like, some people are just going to be McDonald's workers, and that's okay. Not dogging anybody, not shitting on anybody. Like, it is what it is. And they deserve to have a living wage. They deserve to be able to go to work a full-time job, and at least be able to fucking pay for a car. You know, like, they should at least be able to put food on their table. Like God forbid that's some sort of blasphemous comment that I make that, oh no, geez, we're going to pay them $15 an hour. And you know what? And folks like myself and you that argue that minimum wage should increase throughout the board, we're arguing that wages should go up for everybody. For everybody.
Yeah.
Wide scale. Like, think about it. Like, teachers in this country get paid shit. Teachers. And they got to go out there and they got to deal with your snot-nosed, bratty-ass fucking kids for 8 hours, buy their own supplies, get shit on constantly by the Department of Education, get shit on by their unions who don't have their best interests, and go out there for at most $60,000 a year. And then on top of that, hey, well, the way to stop school shootings? Well, let's just arm the fucking teachers. So, that's great. So while we can't afford to give them a good wage, and we can't afford to have to fund these classrooms completely, let's go out there and give everybody a gap, by the way. Like, seriously? Fuck out of here. Like, it's frustrating, man. I didn't want to get off. I didn't want to get on a tangent.
I think it just frustrates you and I because, it's not that they're just preaching that message, is that there's a significant portion of this country that buys into that message, that actually believes that. And, we can talk all we want about Trump and his policies and how disgusting he is, but if people didn't feel the same way he did, he would have never got elected. He's more of a symptom. Like, I really do believe that. I do believe he's the problem. But I do think, he is more of a manifestation of, disgusting racism, sexism, xenophobia, discrimination against the poor. It's just a lot of different things wrapped into one.
Absolutely, man. It's like people, we still have not even asked like, everybody just thinks like, oh, Trump just won because all the racists came out and voted. No, that's not it. And that's just such a moronic view to just have, that just like, oh, well, all the people that voted for Trump were racist, and all the people that went out and voted were just like the racist people just came out of hiding. Like, no, I know people in my family that voted for Trump. Like, they're not racist, but they just feel frustrated. They just feel like, yo, why am I going to believe they bought into the hype? Now, I didn't buy into the hype. I knew Trump was a piece of shit from the beginning. So obviously we're better than that. But it's like, there's people, you can't blame people for feeling frustrated and feeling like politics is broken and that the politicians have not worked for them. I mean, think about it. We wouldn't even be sitting here with a Trump election and a Trump presidency if Hillary Clinton had just campaigned in Michigan and Wisconsin. She thought she was too good to even stop and talk to the people of Michigan and Wisconsin, places where she lost the fucking electoral college by like 10% of the vote. She could have easily won those states had she just dedicated to just winning. But then it's like we sit there and say, well, if we just beat Trump, everything will just go back to normal. See, this is a little bad sour patch in history. Everything will just go back to normal. No, because you got to remember what put Trump in office. That's and there is no consensus on what put Trump in office. Everybody thinks that it's just racist, or it was a white lash against Obama. And yes, there are racist people that voted for Donald Trump. A lot of them. They were empowered. They were empowered by his xenophobic rhetoric. Absolutely. I'm not sitting here trying to devalue that or try to say that didn't play a part in it. Absolutely it did. But to just be narrow-minded to think that that's the only reason Donald Trump got elected is stupid. It's stupid. And we still have, and we still continue to make the same mistakes that we made in 2016, that we made in 2012, that we made in 2028. That thinking that we're just going to put centrists in office and these politicians that pay lip service to the issues of working class people and the issues of identity politics. And hey, see, I'm not racist because I know I can, on a campaign speech, I can say Black Lives Matter. See, I'm not racist. I'm down. I'm woke. Wink, wink. Like, no, like, just because you don't care about African Americans or the plight of minorities in this country because you go out there and you say the talking points. No, you actually care when you actually pass politics, when you actually pass bills and you pass laws that benefit the working class, that benefit people of color, that benefit these forgotten about minority communities. That's where you actually show that you care about, the plight of minorities in this country. Not by saying that, oh yeah, I do think we should decriminalize marijuana, even though, like, Kamala Harris, you've put people in jail for having marijuana. Like, come on now, like, seriously. But I am happy because people our age are starting to wake the fuck up. Like, I think people our age are like, this new generation is just saying, like, no, like, yo, we have Google on every computer. Like, we can Google your policies, we can Google your record, we can Google your donors. Like, you're not fooling us like you fooled mom and dad, or you fooled grandpa, or you fooled great grandma, like, or you fooled the people for
they're
decades
not fooling
and years
us, but
and years.
they are fooling people.
They are, and that's sad.
And that's the thing.
It's still sad to this day. Yeah,
I think the disappointing thing for me, like, coming as a Bernie supporter, I thought Bernie. I mean, Iowa, we're just going to scratch Iowa, but even like New Hampshire was kind of a little too close for comfort for me. And you see that Buttigieg getting this support, and then Klobuchar is getting all this support. It's like, what? How? I don't understand it. And, it makes me feel like maybe there aren't as many progressives as I thought there were. And that's where I'm at right now politically, where I'm like, have I overestimated how many people feel the same way we do? Are we kind of overshooting this? I mean, I think Bernie is still the favorite to win the nomination, but.
No, yeah, you're right. I think it is frustrating. I do think New Hampshire, these are majority white states, so I think that's a caveat and I think Bernie's appeal. It's funny because the Bernie Bros narrative, it completely falls apart by the day. Everybody just thinks that it's just these white incel males that only that's what the media makes you think, right? When honestly, Bernie has more appeal around people of color, minorities, specifically in the Latino community. He has a wide coalition and a broad appeal amongst every race demographic imaginable. He actually does worse against white people, white males in general, than he does anybody else. But but you'll never hear that in cable news. But like, so I agree with you. Like, I think New Hampshire was. I do think though that it was just. I mean, you had 9 freaking candidates that were on the ballot in New Hampshire.
And Buttigieg went all in on Iowa and New Hampshire. So. Yeah,
and you got like Deval Patrick, who had like 0% of the vote, or like 1% of the vote, got like 800 people. So like that goes a long way when you have 9 fucking people that are running for the same domination. It's just by just sheer osmosis, the damn vote is going to be splintered that much. But I think you're going to start seeing. I think it's going to start picking up here in Nevada. I really do. I think Nevada is going to be the real first test how Bernie does there, and then of course you go on to South Carolina and then Super Tuesday. Obviously the polls are looking good. I think he is the front runner. I think he is the favorite. I think Biden has collapsed completely. Just Joe, look, like, I like Joe. I don't like his politics, but I like Joe. I think Joe should just hang it up. Like, he's done. I mean, even if he wins South Carolina, like, I just don't see it for Joe. Buttigieg, like you said, he offers nothing. Amy Klobuchar is just milquetoast vanilla politician, like with her mom jokes. Like, no, I'm sorry, no. Like, honestly, it's Bernie and. God help us if it's Michael Bloomberg. Like, honestly, like, I will stay home if it's
don't get
Michael
me
Bloomberg. Like,
oh my God, dude. And that's
I won't get you started on Mike Bloomberg. Yeah.
Like, Bloomberg,
that'll be a whole nother episode of a podcast, man.
It really would. But just a quick thing on Bloomberg. If you talk to anybody, I think Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, I think everyone does have a issue with money in politics. That is something I've heard from both sides of the aisle. I don't trust the process because they're all bought, whether it's something they agree with or don't agree with. But there's always a conversation from both sides of the aisle about money in politics. This guy is so blatantly jumping into the race with money, buying influence with money, that it blows my mind that he is right now. If you look at the betting odds, he's considered third to win the Democratic nomination. That is absolutely batshit crazy.
A guy who's only been a Democrat for a year, basically.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, in name too, a Democrat in name.
Yeah,
because I think he was a Democrat. Was he a Democrat when you? Yeah, I think he was a Democrat when he. He's been
a Republican. He was a Republican for the most part. And then he ran. I think the third term he ran as an independent, quote unquote.
Got it. But either way, I mean, this guy is. on the stop and frisk, if you ask any minority in New York about stop and frisk, that's something that we all knew what was going on in the city. And this is like going back to the middle class of suburban and the middle class of rural America. Like, they don't know these things are going on. I was living in the suburbs at the time, but I knew what was going on because my family was experiencing that stuff. I have a cousin who sued the New York Police Department twice because he got roughed up by cops for no effing reason. Like, that shit happens all the time. And I don't think, these rural and suburban voters realize that there's two Americas really for people of color and people who live in the city and go through these type of things. And there's two Americas because of people like Michael Bloomberg who push policies like stop and frisk. And it blows my mind that he even has more than 1% of the black vote. I think that can change very quickly as long as people like you and I are very active in spreading the message. But it's also contingent on mainstream media. Like, why isn't CNN making its rounds about the policies?
Because all they're concerned about is beating Trump. He's got he does well against Trump. Oh, he's another billionaire like Trump. See, so we got our own billionaire now. Yeah, Like, who gives a fuck if he's a billionaire? Like, I don't care. Congratulations, you made $1 billion by screwing over working class people. Wonderful. That's wonderful. I don't care. Like,
and you would think actually that after Trump won the election, based off the fake news narrative and the narrative that you can't trust the mainstream media, which he was absolutely 100% correct on. I mean, if Trump was right about anything, it was how the mainstream media is bullshit. I wouldn't say it's fake news, but it is bullshit. You would think the mainstream, yeah. You would think they would learn their lesson, and they haven't. It's so disheartening for someone who. I consider myself progressive based off of.
No, I was going to say they're so stuck in their elitist windows that they can't even look out to see the plight of regular people like you and myself. Like, they live in this bubble, right? Where they just think that, what we think and what we tell our news audience to think, that's just going to resonate. And that's it. There's nothing else. And they can't fathom why somebody like Bernie has support. They can't fathom why somebody like Trump would appeal to some people. They just live in a bubble. And they think it's very elitist, and it's look, the thing on Michael Bloomberg is, you know what, and everything you said was spot on, but you know what's the disheartening thing is that you got members of the Black Congressional Caucus supporting him. You got mayors across every city in America supporting him. Black people who know what he did and are basically turning a blind eye. Why? Because he's cutting them a check. I don't even think that they actually support this man on the context of policy or character. He's just cutting people checks. Michael Bloomberg is essentially saying, fuck democracy. I'm just going to circumvent the system by buying it. I'm gonna show you how broken the system is by just buying as much influence and power as I can buy. He's essentially
the literal
laughing
definition of oligarchy.
Exactly. Oh, but don't say he's an oligarch. MSNBC might basically fucking have a connection.
Oh, you saw that? Come on.
Yes, I saw. Like, Nina Turner had the nerve to call Michael Bloomberg an oligarch.
I love.
Like, seriously, like if he's not an oligarch, then what would you call an oligarch? What would you call an oligarch? I mean, he fits the definition. Oh, he's not Russian. I'm sorry. He's not Russian. Michael Bloomberg's not Russian, so it doesn't count as an oligarch.
His response to that bothered me too. He's like, "Well, Bernie's part of the 1%. You support someone who's part of 1%."
Oh my fucking god!
It just shows me though, because you can't make it to MSNBC and have a whole career in politics and not know the difference between an oligarch and someone who just so happens to make money. Like, you know what you're doing. That guy knew exactly what he was doing. He knew he was arguing from a disingenuous point, and that's what pisses me off the most, because I can take someone who has beliefs but just doesn't know better, who's just literally just ignorant, like, I didn't know, or I don't know the definitions, or I didn't know these were the policies. These people know the policies. These people knows what these words means, and they're still taking someone like Nina Turner's words and twisting them, or Bernie's supporters' words and twisting them, taking Bernie's words and twisting them. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it consciously. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting, and it just surprises me that after 4 years of Trump, after Trump winning an election based off the fact that the mainstream media sucks, they would have learned their lesson, but they haven't, and it's because they come from a place of privilege, like you said, and they don't want their status in society knocked down a little bit because they have to pay a little more in taxes so everyone has health care. It's fucking backwards, man.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And we'll close on this. Look, the guy that we're talking about is Dr. Jason Johnson, right? This is a guy who's a doctor, an educator in this country. And basically is arguing the definition of an oligarch to Nina Turner on national television. A black educator in this country. You would think someone who understands what Nina's talking about, who can actually see eye to eye. Like, again, I'm with you. Look, I work with a lot of people that are conservative. That we disagree on policies. As long as you and I've never been one of those. Like, I hate this new generation, this woke culture, this cancel culture of like, if you don't agree with me politically, you're an evil person. Like, no, you like people. Like, look, we can have a substantive debate about healthcare and whether some people believe in the single payer system or people believe in just, Obamacare as it is. Like, we can have a substantive debate. We can have debates on gun legislation. We can have debates on marijuana and legalization of it. Like, we can have solid debates on it, but there's just certain things that you can't debate. Like, is Michael Bloomberg an oligarch? Like, that's not a debatable point here. Like that's it. It isn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, that is a fact. Like, I don't even know, like, who would you call an oligarch if you don't call Michael Bloomberg an oligarch? Like, I don't even know how you would call anybody else an oligarch if you can't call Michael Bloomberg an oligarch. Like, the man owns his own news network.
Yeah. And just to go back to my original point, too, it's just disheartening that there are people who watch that debate and think that Nina Turner got slaughtered in that debate, because it is up to us as a general public to know that man is full of shit. Like, you should be watching that interview and being like, that's not like, what is he talking about? Just because, like, you should be able to compute that. But, it's also, it goes back to lack of education and lack of, like, what are they teaching us in schools? Like, we can go down that road, and that's going to be another hour. But, it's just disheartening to me, because there are going to be bad actors arguing in bad faith, and I'm just not confident in the American public to pick up on it all the time.
Oh, I'm not either.
I think that's the reason. That's why we have someone like Trump. Like, a lot of it has to do with that. I mean, obviously there's more nuance, and I'll repeat what you said. I don't think everybody who supports Trump is a racist. Some of the best people I know have voted for Trump, and that's what makes it even more confusing for me. Yeah. And there are different reasons for it, but the lack of people to recognize a fallacy, in the conversation or a debate, the lack of people knowing what an oligarch is, like, this is what leads to it. We should be able to sniff out this bullshit in society, and we can't do it as a whole. We just can't do it. And I don't mean to come off as condescending or I'm smarter than everybody, but people don't know when they're being strawman. People don't know when they're being bait and switched. Like, they just don't know. And that's how you get someone like Trump, an unwildly uneducated, incoherent president who knows nothing about government or anything about how anything is run.
Yeah, no, man. I completely agree with you, man. It's just, there's nothing else to say about it. It's just frustrating, and hopefully, I will say I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are, because I think a lot of this is generational. I think a lot of young people my age, a little bit older, your age, a little bit older, like our generation, the generation after us, are smart enough to know bullshit when they see it. I think our parents, man, unfortunately, they still come from that age where, the media is an institution and it's a sanctity, and whatever the news anchor says, it's, the Walter Cronkite era, that shit's over. Like, it died a long time ago. Like that time. The news is no longer an institution of greater good. You can't be an institution of greater good when you're owned by Comcast. You can't be an institution of greater good when you're owned by, Rupert Murdoch and News Corp. Like, you're spreading propaganda. Like, it is what it is. And I think people have to open their eyes and see the bullshit. And I hope that, people our age and younger are starting that. And that's why it's important for us. And I know people are listening to this podcast and they're like, how the hell did you guys flip from basketball to, politics? But it's like, it's important for us to have these platforms, as little as they can be, that they are, spread this information, use our platforms to open people's eyes. And hopefully somebody listens to this podcast and says, you know what? Hey, I didn't think about that before. But I'm going to have a different outlook on it now because of you guys. And maybe they won't. Who cares? Who knows? I don't know. But if we change somebody's mind, one person, we've done our job. So use your platform to educate people and to put people on and to spread the gospel on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, man, and just call people out on bullshit, man. I mean, call them out. Like the Mike Bloomberg thing is just really triggering. It's just like, this guy is literally trying to buy an election. I mean, it literally is.
Yeah. And, for someone who's trying to defeat someone like Trump and that ideology, And I had to have my conservative friends look at me and being like, well, what about Bloomberg? Like, that's what you support? And I have to go through the route of like, no, that's not what I just, like, it's just another step in the process of getting my ideas out and what I really believe in out. And then also putting in a box the left, you know, yeah. I don't want Bloomberg in our box. Get the fuck. You do not deserve to be in our box. It's just frustrating. You are way more optimistic than I am. But I hope I'm wrong.
It's because I have to be, man. It's like I have to be because it's like if I'm just very cynical and negative about it, I'm just going to drive myself crazy. So I'm going to try to be positive, you know, maybe. And it's a front. I'll admit to you, it's a front because I have to be. But it's like it's just. No, I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you, man. I hate to end the show on such a down.
About the Sixers. You're right about the Sixers and the Jazz.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not end the show on a down note. Yeah, you're right. I'm glad to be right on the Sixers and the Jazz, man. All right, man. Hey, man, it was a pleasure being with you again on the podcast, man. Before you go, Josh, go ahead and plug and sell yourself, plug your social, plug your podcast, all that good stuff, man.
So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh_Rodriguez_. You'll hear a lot of sports takes, but you also hear some political takes as well.
As you can see, right?
Yeah. My podcast is called The Dime NBA. Good news. Actually, this is the first time I'm saying it on a podcast or publicly, but I just got picked up by Dash Radio. So my podcast will be on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio starting in 2 weeks. So look out for that. And if you want a good laugh and some basketball talk, I produce Certified Buckets on Uninterrupted. It's only on Spotify, though, exclusively on Spotify. So follow Certified Buckets. It's with Nick Young, Janae Abumake, and Sharonis Jackson. That is the podcast that I produce right now. So it's a lot of content for you. And listen, man, I appreciate you having me on. It's always a good time. You know, you're someone who I think thinks logically and can take conversation into different layers. And that's really rare. I'm not going to lie. And I appreciate you, man.
Awesome, man. That means a lot coming for you, man. So yeah, man, keep doing big things, and we'll be watching and we'll support you along the way, man. Everything that you do, for real, man. And let's not make it so long between another appearance on the show, man. You're welcome on the podcast anytime.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
No doubt, man. We're going to get up out of here, try to catch the rest of this All-Star game. As always, man, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for subscribing. You guys know the details. Follow us on Twitter at AGS Pod, on Instagram, AGS Podcast, Facebook, Any Given Sunday. Follow me on Twitter at The Manuel Brown, Instagram at The Manuel Brown, Facebook Manuel Brown, Snapchat MannyBro15. We're going to get up out of here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to my lovely wife. I love you. Everybody out there, hopefully you're enjoying some good quality time with your loved one, enjoying the 3-day if you have it. If not, hopefully you're still enjoying your weekend. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode of the show. For Manny Brown, for Josh, I messed up. A political conversation got me going. For Josh Rodriguez and Manny, it's all good. For Josh Rodriguez, I'm Manny Brown. We are out of here. Peace out, everybody. Have a good weekend.